Everybody. It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are here again. We are your hosts, Arkatech Beatz.
Yep.
And I left out. We are your host, Platinum Producers,
Oh,
Arkatech Beatz. I'm Jugrnaut,
I am Mike Trauma D.
and every week we get together and we basically talk about the music industry, give independent artists, music producers, musicians, just different tips and stuff and resources on the music industry. And sometimes we do talk about the current events and the things that are happening in the music industry that may impact your career. So today, or this week rather, has been the week of Ye West, the
Oh,
artist formerly known as Kanye West.
oh boy.
The
It's
artist
all
now
over the
known as
place.
Ye, all over the place. And basically, he made some comments as it relates to the late George Floyd that were, not really, not really taken in the way that people would have liked. And then also, he made some comments about a different community or different religious community, which has now been labeled as somewhat hate speech, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, those has been kind of categorized as hate speech,
We're
anti,
trying
which
we're trying to tread lightly here.
yeah, we're trying to dance around the terms, right? Because the terms seem to be trigger words for people in the media. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you say the trigger words for some weird reason, it's like it's like someone presses the switch on you, and then it's bye platform. So listen, this is something that folks have to really be aware of. So what we want to talk about today is we want to talk about, you know, was what happened with Ye. You know, was he right in certain aspects? We're not 100% right. I think there were portions of it where he may have things that may be right, and maybe some things that he may have gotten wrong, articulated wrong. Then the other question is that is it a cancelable? That's not even a word. Is it a canceling event? Right? Meaning, if someone says something or if someone posts something, does that should that immediately trigger, mass cancellation? Right? Whereas you have people who are convicted of murder and rape and this type of things, and they're not being put under such scrutiny, right? Um, so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about how it impacts, music, and also,
Mm-hmm.
if there is true freedom of speech, and when does freedom of speech start to become a detriment to your community, especially with rap music? We've been talking about that, especially in hip hop, that it has gotten to a point where the things that we're saying may or may not be helping us as a community. And I
Right.
think that we can take some cues from that other community on
Right.
how to defend the things that you say to make sure that your community is always respected. And I think there's something to take from that. So let's jump into that.
Man, it's been a long ride, man. If we go back, um, to just hip hop culture and some of the things that we say on record and we bring attention to. You go back to Public Enemy, you go back to NWA, even Two Live Crew. You know, a lot of things that's said on record, um, you know, can be deemed offensive. You know, by certain people, and the hip hop have always kind of had that on edge portion, where something is said and there's some shock value brought, and it's sort of like, oh wow, or man, it shouldn't have said that. It's always been, we always straddle that line that's got us, you know, in trouble, to say, you know, and you know now in this era, especially with a lot of, I should say, gangster music or street music, some of these records are being placed in court systems to kind of um, you know lock up artists that's involved in any criminal activity. So that has been an interesting turn of events. Now, in addition, if you say something political on a record, that also is being used against you. So it kind of like now the things that we rap about, we talk about, where we're using to kind of enlighten people or kind of bring awareness to, or just for shock value because you're trying to make a record and you're trying to be creative. Now these things are being thrown at you and used, almost pretty much weaponized against you, um, to kind of just destroy your career, man. It's kind of like a turn of events, like it's kind of interesting the way things have turned around, you know?
It's crazy, man, because I'm watching it in real time, and I watched the Drink Champs interview, the majority of it, and then the backlash came,
Yeah,
like the backlash came immediately. Nori had to apologize. Um, he had to take it down. Um, and a lot of the controversy was what centered around just the fact that they were saying that certain communities control uh certain parts of the industry, you
right,
know or the majority of it, or are responsible for just the cycle of bad deals, and maybe there's some exploitation of the culture.
right.
um
So you can't say this and you can't say that.
right. So you can basically say things that are of detriment to your community, but you can't say anything to about anybody else's community. And I think that's what kind of caused a lot of the kind of caused the whole situation to kind of blow out of proportion, because I think that there are things that we can take from the other community
Absolutely.
that can actually help our community, right? There are
Right.
like rules and principles and things that they follow that have worked for them for an eternity, right? For as long as we can remember. So it's worked to help them to maintain their families, to maintain their business, maintain their economic standing and stuff like that. So I can see where some of the I can see where some of the comparisons come in, and then
Hmm.
if it's said the wrong way, then that's what creates the cancellation situation. Because when I tell you, like, we saw somebody lose $1 billion in net value and net worth in 24 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Unprecedented
Yeah, that's pretty
that you
scary.
ever see anything like that for comments, that a person can lose $1 billion valuation or multi-billion-dollar valuation
Hmm.
in 24 hours based off of comments, posts, um, tweets, whatever you want to say. Like
I'm gonna
like
say this.
should us as a community, as the black community, should we be concerned when we see that type of cancellation happening in real time? Is that like really, like, because what we really saw was a real flex of power.
Yeah, I mean, this was a long time coming. I mean, if you really think about it, um, if there are certain groups that hold certain power in certain areas, and you go into their establishment or go on their platforms or whatever it is, and you do something or say something that's going to abrupt their business, they're going to take action just as they should. And like, if you think about it, if you have a platform and someone comes on your platform and really starts to disrupt and say things and do things and like say things that's going to hurt your platform, you as a business owner can say, you know what, I'm not going to allow this,
And I'm going to protect my
and
interests.
I'm going to protect my interests, so I'm going to shut that down. Can anyone be really mad at someone who does that? As a business person, as a person who maybe got it from the mud, who's been through so much oppression and so much like things like come on, like let's be for real. Like we're all human beings, and if you bust your ass to get to where you are now, and you went through some serious traumatic life changing challenges, you know, and you finally made it to a situation where, oh my goodness, I'm finally here, and you created a network of like-minded people who been through the same things, or have the same beliefs or whatever culture or whatever you want to call it, and you finally situate yourself in a way where we're not going to allow that to happen to us again. We're going to make sure we have an infrastructure where we can benefit, we can grow our family, we could grow, we could help our families, and so be it. Who could really be mad at that? The only people who are going to be mad at that is the people who don't got that same situation going for them, who had every right, had every opportunity to better themselves and get themselves organized and situated for them to make their own power moves and didn't. Come on, like it's like I'm tired of what I'm seeing all day every day on these feeds with people complaining and pointing a finger, saying, "Oh, it's their fault or this fault." No, it's your own fault, man. Like the black community, I'm gonna say it like that. The black community, we've had opportunities to come together. Look how many millionaires and billionaires we have between athletes, entertainers, doctors. Like we have successful black people in every, just pretty much every, industry. And you telling me we couldn't get nothing together to start creating a network where we could start positioning ourselves to make some real changes?
It's because that's always been the game. The game has always been to take a few, get a few to be successful, give you that idea that you have some hope, but never really give you the ability to own your own destiny. Right? Like, so what happens is, hey, well, we'll make just enough of you rich, right? To just kind of give you the illusion that there was a chance of you actually getting on equal footing, and it never was there. And I think that's starting to become apparent now. It's that, hey, all of this is an illusion. Meaning, like, if you can remove a man's worth of $1 billion in 24 hours, and he never really made it.
Yeah, but that's only because you're playing by somebody else's game. Like you're already in somebody else's system. The thing is, you have to find a way to be out of that system and create your own system. But we're all in somebody's system right now.
Right.
We're
But
on
but
somebody's platform right now.
right. But what I'm saying is that you're 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 on somebody else's platform, but you got paid. So you can be in a situation where you can think
Hmm.
that that you're your own person, you're your own man because you're rich, right? I'm
That's
my
right.
own
Right.
man, I'm
I see what you
rich,
said. Right.
right? But you're not your own
You're
man
not. You know why?
because
Because like
we can remove it, take your money out of the bank. We can so you're not your own man. So
because
what
you don't own.
that's what I'm trying to get to is that we don't own. And the question here is that have we been lulled to sleep? Like, have we been lulled to sleep? Have we been allowed to amass, billionaire status as long as you don't own anything?
Mm, yeah, I think
Have you
that's
been
it.
have you been lulled to sleep? You can be a billionaire. You can come, yeah. But you don't
Yeah.
own that. And when we decide that you're not falling in line, you know, then we're gonna press the button. And when I say we, that can be any group. You know what I'm saying? I'm not targeting any groups or anything in particular. I'm just saying in general, when the power structure decides that what you're doing is now a detriment to the real
Yeah.
infrastructure,
Right.
we're gonna
As
press
it
the
should.
button. We're gonna press the button, or we're gonna press the eject button, and we're gonna eject your ass out of this
Because
car.
it's protective measures are
I
taken.
get I get it, man. Like, I really do get it. Like, I honestly get it. And I get it, and I understand, like you said earlier, they're trying to protect their interests. Period. And everybody has to realize that this is what happens in America or any other country. If you're a sovereign country, you have to protect your interests. That's why you got a border, right? That's why you got a military. You have to protect what you have. And that's because if you don't protect what you have, somebody's gonna come and take it from you.
and
Right?
and that's what's been happening to the black community. We haven't been protecting our interests at all.
We don't protect our interests. And that's part of the problem. And I think that is where you see the frustration coming in. And I think that's where you see, the lash out that people are saying with Ye is is he can't he's now seeing that, listen, I'm out here really naked. Like, I really don't own this thing. Like, how can I create something and then I don't own it? How can I create something and then you guys can take it and do whatever the fuck you want to do with it? Like, so like now we kind of got to the point, like, how do I hand this down to my kids? Like, these are the real questions that start to get asked, right? So then it's like,
Right.
okay, then also then why every time I get to a certain level, all of a sudden somebody magically appears to be a handler or to be an expert or you know what I'm saying? It's like, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? So he was talking about a lot of different things that I thought was interesting, some of it a little
Mm.
off base. Some of it a little bit off base, but when you really peel back the layer of the onion, it's like, especially in hip hop, like, we don't own any of it.
But I think
And
that's key. I think if anybody's gonna take anything away from is gonna get anything from this dialogue today, this podcast today, I think it really comes down to ownership. I think at the end of the
yeah,
day, man, I think the key thing here is ownership. Owning, whether it's owning your masters, owning your record label 100%, um, owning land,
yeah,
owning, just own, you got to own it. And too many of the times, we get, dangle some money in front of our eyes and we go for it and we relinquish, you know,
um,
profitable situations that could be handed down from generation to generation. I mean, it's happened, from Def Jam to uh, Rockaware to like it happens with all of our clothing companies that we spent time building up, and then all of a sudden, oh, we flip it, you know, for the bag, and people buy it. Whoever company comes and buys it, and it's gone, and it's
BT.
yeah, and it's gone. Like it's
Yeah,
never how it was after. And there were so many black companies that came up that just get bought out and they're gone now. And
but that's the plan. And I think to what your point is saying is that you know the ownership portion of it. And I think, like you said again, this is the key for this episode, like ownership. Like, I think that's what the whole issue with Ye is going on right now, is that there's no ownership. There's no there's no transparency in terms of how the businesses are being run, right? In the background, how the contracts are structured. There's no transparency. And it's controlled by a select few that are able to kind of navigate it all, and they create the rules, they create the language, they create everything that's surrounded by the industry. And
mhm,
you gotta ask yourself, damn, how did it get this way? But to your point again, ownership, 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 right? And I think maybe what we do is we kind of get to we get complacent, meaning, hey, we got Spotify. We
mhm,
don't need another Spotify. So no one in our community reverses engineers it, right?
right,
Or, hey, you got a distro kid, right? Or a tune core or whatever. No one in our community reverse engineers it. It's like there should always be black alternatives to all of these things.
right, right,
You know what I'm
absolutely,
saying? Like, period. Like, I think sometimes we kind of get into the situation where it's just like, oh, that already exists, or that's not really innovative, right? Because you're basically copying what somebody else has already. And I think some people like to think in terms of innovation, like, hey, if you got a Facebook, why do you need if you got an Instagram, why did you need a TikTok? Well, look what happened, right?
right,
Like, like, you always need to create an alternative. Now, and just in the cases that this happens, right? If JP Morgan Chase doesn't want to do business with Ye, you know, how many other banks feel that way? And then the other
right,
question is that if all the banks take that position, where do you put your money?
right, right,
Like, this is a dangerous and slippery slope. And I try to tell folks, like, listen, like, regardless of what you might personally feel about Ye, you should never, ever, ever root for the cancellation of people based off of what people say, right? Because all of us, all of us are guilty of saying some things that we shouldn't be saying at one time or another, right?
Hmm.
So remember we got these phones that can become listening devices in the near future. And who's to say that, hey, if you said the wrong thing about your president, or if you said something this that, where all of a sudden you're supposed to lose all of your livelihood?
Mm.
Like, we have to really be careful with this type of situation when we start talking about the situation. Then the other part of it too that's a little bit alarming is that, you know, essentially you kind of press the button and you kind of put the man in indentured servitude in a way, because if you removed all of his wealth and then he gets to a point where he can't, maintain his obligations, then what's left?
Mm.
Is it prison? If he can't pay his taxes, right? What is prison is next, right? Like what? Like, is that how it works? Is that you can press the button and then somebody can be deleted, and then all of a sudden the only thing left for them to do is go back into bondage?
Wow. I mean, that's a scary thought. That
But we have to be.
and I can't help the Kanye record in my head right now. That's the record Power
No
just
one
pops up
man
in
should
my
have all
head.
that power, man. It's like
Yeah.
it's real, like when like that. But this is what's scary for me, as a black man in America, and like, okay, I have these platforms that I use. Cool. Platforms pay you money, whatever. You may have a job, it pays you money, whatever. I post something that's contrary to popular opinion.
Right.
I lose it all because it's against or doesn't agree or doesn't align with the popular opinion. How does that work?
It's like
Like,
get down or
like,
lay down, huh?
listen, people should be, yeah, black people should be terrified of this type of model. It's because it's not equal for us. We don't have alternatives, as you
That's
can
what
clearly see.
that's what the problem is. We don't have alternatives. If we get barred from this bank, there are other
Yeah,
there are
there's
black
no
there are black banks out there, but
far and few.
right.
Where's the alternative? So we should never support this type of thing happening to anyone. Not in America. If you're in a different country, I get it. If you're going to go to
Hmm.
a social credit system, that's a different situation. But not in America should we support anything where people can be, removed or ostracized from society. Um, and they didn't commit a murder. They didn't kill someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't do a quote unquote crime, I don't understand this culture of deletion like this. It's a weird space that we're in, and rappers who have which are really silent on this thing. You guys have been saying all types of wild shit for decades. Like, you guys have said some of the wildest shit in music for decades, and you guys are silent.
Mm.
I get it, man. Like, I understand you can't go against who cut the check. I get it, but at least come out and say that. Like, listen, I can't come out against. I can't say. I can't say what I want to say because I'm owned. Like,
Pretty much.
just
Yeah.
say that. Like,
Yeah.
just say that so that we can understand that. Okay, we have to take our resources now. We have to create something for ourselves. Like, the more I hope that people are waking up and realizing that, hey, you are owned. It's like,
What I found
this is a dangerous space that we're in.
what I found interesting was people are actually upset with Nori for taking it down. And I'm like, but isn't Nori's show on Revolt? And Revolt, like, you got to look at who owns these companies and who's in business with who. And again, you can't just be on any platform saying whatever you want to say.
No knock to
Yeah,
Nori. No knock to Nori. He's not willing to sacrifice his platform for that.
yeah,
He's just not willing to do it. Like the same for some other folks. Breakfast Club. These guys are not willing to sacrifice their platforms. I don't blame them,
yeah.
right? Because if you've worked 15, 20 years to get yourself to a certain status, to earn certain types of dollars, you're not willing to throw that away on a cause that's not your own. If it's something that's your own cause that you believe in and that you want to, and you're willing to risk that, you're willing to stand on that, right? Kanye, Kyrie Irving, etc. If you guys are willing to stand on what you guys are standing on, and you guys, that's different. That's different. But you can't expect these guys to sacrifice their platforms. Now, this is where the issue is. Also, again, is that we can't have the unity is because your check is being cut by somebody else.
We don't own.
Right. So it's like there's no way for you to get all on the same page because this one says, "Hey, my kids got to eat."
Yep. Or my platform is, I'm signed to this, I'm signed to that.
Yep.
I and there's clauses in these contracts.
You can't talk about your employer that
Right.
way.
And that's exactly and that's why Kanye is out of that Adidas deal. Like there are clauses that if you say things or do things that's not in alignment with the company, I think it's called a morale clause.
Morality, yeah.
Yeah, and they could just non-avoid. They could just cut it right there and then.
Drop you, freeze up your money. He said that he had another $40 million in expenses that they hid from him.
Well, hey, that's just the other side of that's just the regular bad shark business. So it's bad enough that they opted you out, but now you're subjected to this part too.
You weren't gonna get away scot-free.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like he really did. He circumvented 2 hardcore contracts in a matter of a few weeks just by some comments. The question is if he's ready to pivot and take advantage of it because the online sentiment for him is pretty high. Regardless of what people are saying and saying so forth and so on, he has an army of people that support him. Yeah. There's an army of people that support what he's saying. They're supporting what he's thinking. And I think that it doesn't bode well over time. I think to me, he kind of pulled an 8 Mile, right? Pulled an Eminem in 8 Mile where he said, this is what these folks are going to do. This is what these folks have been trying to do. And as he said it, that's what they did. He proved them right. Everything that he said that they would do, and they would do this, and they would attack his billionaire status. He said it, and you snap your fingers, and that's what happened.
What do you think would be Kanye's best bet to do now, and what could we all learn from it?
Remember, it's Ye, right? It's changed his name. It's now the artist formerly known as Kanye West. We want to be respectful.
I think that's part of the problem.
So this is the thing. What can we learn from it? What we can learn from it is you have to own your own monster.
Right.
Point blank, period. Especially if you're a creator in this field right now, we have to look to own our own monsters. And people will say, "What do you mean by own your own monsters?" Like, listen, we've been talking about this for quite some time, where we would say, "Hey, you're on social media, you're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, whatever. All right, you got your account is verified, so forth and so on." That's a ticking time bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It's rented space, rented real estate, right? The question is, where can your customers come to find you?
Yeah, if it all goes away,
if it all goes away, where can your customers find you? What is the backup plan for you to make sure that you have customer data to make sure that you can reach and contact customers when the cancellation starts to happen? Meaning, If we say something that people don't like, if Google takes away your email address right now, what do you do? You see what I'm saying? What do you do if you can't use PayPal? What do you do? What do you do? The
You gotta think
this is
about those things.
you got to think about these things, right? And this
What
it's
if
happening.
the person that owns the domain to your website says, you know what?
Yeah, what do you do? So for these guys that are out here who are rich, right? These guys who have all who have, we're talking about $100 million money shacks and so forth, so forth, and so on. Remember, these folks are one comment away from losing it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Charles Barkley, anybody who's a commentator who has to talk, Stephen A, you know what I mean? Rappers, anybody who has something that has to be said. We are one comment away from being deleted. So the question really is like, are you prepared for that day? Are you prepared for when that happens and when you say your email no longer works? And like you said, all of that stuff is you're removed from all platforms, right? This is why the Elon Musk situation is so important. Like, this is why the purchase of Twitter is so important. It's like people were removed for having an alternate opinion. How? Like, how does that happen in America? So and then what happens is that once you remove the alternate voice or the opinion, right? Because now we can't call out when something is wrong, right? So like when something is wrong, we don't have a voice to say, "Hey, you guys are messing something up over here. You guys need to fix it." No, they can continue to suppress the voice and continue to move with the corruption. So
But how do we even move forward as a culture? We can't use. I mean, what makes America and what makes us move forward is just the different ideas and different creativity and all these things that get us to move forward in life. Like, technology, it moves forward because of all of these people with different ideas and different thoughts and beliefs and experiences. Like, how do we move forward? You know,
that's,
if we're all thinking, if we're all believing the same exact thing, we all have a control to just do this one thing. Then where are we going?
that's what the whole point is. They want you have some folks that want you to go in an infinite loop, a loop that just keeps a loop, and and then they manage the loop, right? They're on top of the loop, so you're in the loop, and they're on top of the loop, saying, "Okay, we got it where we want it," because now we're the head of the power structure. You can't come out of that power. You can't come out of your loop. You're stuck in your loop. And like you said, it's like you have to have some sort of dialogue. You have to have some sort of different ideas and views in order to move society forward as a whole. Like that's really what it really comes down to. Well, back to your original question, like, what do we do as a community? We have to reverse engineer some of this shit.
There's a lot of things we need to change.
Yeah, like there's some things we got to reverse engineer. Yeah, we got a Twitter, but we still need an alternative, right? Yep. Yeah, we got a Facebook, but we still need an alternative, right? Yeah, we got Twitch or whatever else or Instagram or whatever, but we still need alternatives. And then we need alternatives to the streaming platforms, and then we need alternatives to the distribution platforms.
Right.
We need alternatives,
and we have to own our content. We got to own our
content.
And even more, I think we need to also have more self-respect within our contents.
Preach on that.
I mean, you want everyone to fight for us, but we're not fighting for ourselves, man. Like some of these records and some of these videos, man, are just really just showcasing, like, what they think about us. Like you're just helping it along,
It's only our culture,
and we're the only ones doing it to us.
Yes.
Like you see any other culture, making records or videos doing the same thing, like just they don't allow it.
No,
they don't allow it.
Especially not to be mass marketed and promoted like this.
Like we constantly do it to ourselves over and over again, and it's like there's nothing wrong being creative, and I love aggressive music, but there's a point like to watch a video and a young lady's dancing in front of Planned Parenthood talking about murder on her mind. It's just like
It's really unnerving.
it's whoo, like that's okay.
That's really unnerving.
That is what where we've come to as a culture, as a group, that we're okay with this. Like that's not embarrassing. Like that doesn't. How do you think other cultures, other groups are looking at that?
And then
Like
how do
think
you?
about that.
And then how do we expect to get any respect from those folks? How can? And I think that's what goes back to the whole situation when your man says, about when he's on his tirade about Black Lives Matter. It's like, yo, does it really matter? Like, does it really matter to you because you're not concerned about all of it?
You got to be concerned with all of it. You can't. You can't. You can't be
Say it's
screaming
police.
Black Lives Matter and then over here you good with this. That's
Yeah, you can't.
happening.
You can't be good. Can't do that.
You can't. You can't be selective.
Yep.
You can't
Gotta
be
be good.
okay with him using the N word also. You can't be selective. You can't. Oh, he gets a pass. Like, man, we sure
gotta
got
go.
some funny memories, man.
We
When it's
gotta
time, when it comes down to it.
we gotta do better. And the one thing that I will take away from this, and I will take away from Ye and his comments to the other community, and how when I said they move so swift, it was like Thor hammer coming down in Endgame or something like that. It was so swift to where it was like, no, they press the button. This person is anti whatever, and everybody that said drop, 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 drop,
Yeah.
back to
And the
back.
funny thing is, you would have other media or other people associated who would see what's happening. It may not necessarily be in that network, but they may see it happening and be like, I don't want to be I don't want to be the only one left, holding the bag. Like, I don't want to be the only one supporting this while all of this is happening. Some of those guys are my business partners. You know what? I'm going to jump on the bandwagon too and not support him, and I'm going to drop him and so forth. Because it started to look like that. It started to look like, you know what? All the major companies are dropping him. I'm going to drop him too.
Because they don't really have a choice, right? Because you're kind of guilty by association,
Right.
right? So you don't have a choice. So, you know, if he was able to have articulated himself better in what he was trying to relay, but again, the definition of it being anti is so broad, meaning you can't
But
really
that's but
you can't say anything remotely um generalizing
yeah.
or negative about the group at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's like they have been able to corner the market and making sure that any anti rhetoric for them is no bueno. It does not go. It
Even
does not
even
pass go.
even if the things that are being said has truth in it, and has some factual, if you're saying something that is factual, you have to be very mindful of how it's perceived. And there's people in positions who, it's pretty much keep my name out your mouth.
100%.
That's all it really is. You could be trying to say the coolest, the nicest things, but at the end of the day, it's like, don't talk about me. Don't talk about
Don't
me.
talk about us.
Right.
And we
Like we
and
have our
we need
situation, our setup. Just don't talk about us. You do you. Don't talk about us.
we need to get ourselves that way. We need to get black community on it. Like, hey, don't speak on us at all.
But that's not going to happen because we're too busy speaking so bad on each other and ourselves.
It's
You know,
crazy.
like they're not going to like we already have a hard time with the other community saying that, yo, why can't we use the N word? You guys can use it. Why? Like we have such a hard debate with that one.
It's not really. It's not even really debated, man. Like if you're
Yeah,
using it, if you're using it in every single line of a song, what do you expect to happen? What do you expect to happen? Like, what do you expect to happen? It's like I noticed this thing. Like I like we said, Elon just finished the purchase of Twitter this week. Now they're like, oh, this is what free speech looks like. This is the extra use of the N word. The question is, who's using the N word on the platform? Like, who's using it on the platform, and why are they trying to use that as the bar to stop free speech? And I think this is where we kind of get duped as a community. We get duped because it's kind of like, that's the intention of it. They don't want the platform to be. They don't want the platform to be a free speech platform. So they want to use us, right? Because if you notice, there would never be any anti-Semitic, anti what you call it on. Excuse me, I almost slipped there, right? Right? There'll never be any anti what you call it rhetoric, but it will always be the rhetoric toward our community. And then we want to say, oh, we need the censorship. But we're the last group that should be looking to be censored. Like we don't want ourselves to be censored, because once we become censored, there's no way for us to air our grievance. Like this is where it gets tricky. Like, if we can't talk about what's going on in America as Black people, it's like, how do our problems get solved? They won't get solved. They'll just get muted.
Hmm.
And this is where it gets dangerous. It's like, you don't want to be the community who's not on equal footing that gets muted every time you got something to say.
Yo, yesterday somebody posted something on one of the platforms, and I responded saying, "Oh, this dude is lying. Do you know that the platform wouldn't allow me to post it?" It stopped me. It literally says this may be considered misinformation, and it won't allow me to post it. And it says you have to go back and edit the word out, the lying. I was like, wow, that is strong.
That's a problem, man.
That is strong. Like,
that's a problem.
Like the way that it reads what you're saying before you can even, like, I didn't get a chance to post it yet.
That's a problem.
Like, I clicked it and it must have just, hold up.
That's a problem, bro. Like that's a problem, because they ran that on us the whole pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They ran that on us on the whole pandemic. They said this was misinformation, where fast forward, oh no, it was accurate.
Yeah.
Right? But you never were able to see that information in real time. So you could have made a different decision had you had been informed.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So this is, you playing with people's lives. Like that's really what's happening. It's like people could have made different decisions based on information if it was, if we were allowed to use it. But that's why we need alternatives. You cannot have one sector or one group or one political side or whatever control the narrative. That's ridiculous. It is asinine.
Yeah.
And we as the people who have to deal with the most oppression in this country should never be looking for things like that where it's one-sided. Like, what? I'm like, what?
As probably one of the most creative groups and cultures, we should like we gotta have more, man, and we gotta create more. We gotta own more. We gotta build more, and not be so quick to sell out.
It's hard not to.
I'm gonna say something that maybe will be a little crazy. Folks got Jackie Robinson syndrome.
Yikes.
And it's like we have our own thing going, and then you want to be accepted. You want to be accepted, and you want to be like the others. So you jump on their bandwagon. instead of culturing and helping
building your own.
building your own that's already doing well. They dangle a bag and here you go, you jump ship. And by you jumping ship, you destroy what's there. Look at all of the black fashion designers, the companies that we've had like through the 90s, the 80s, 90s. They're all gone, bought out. Where are they now? They're not there anymore. Can
And
you
again,
imagine if all of those companies stayed and continued to grow and handed down the companies to their families and to grow? Like, man,
but that's part of what your man was caught. That's part of what Ye is complaining about, is that those industries can, because they're controlled by a certain set of folks, they can ice you out, right? Like, who's to say? Who's to say Bad for Michael Jackson, right? Couldn't have sold as much as Thriller, right? Who's to say that somebody didn't press the button in the background and say, okay, we just don't promote it as much,
right,
and the same thing with the fashion area. Like, okay, we just don't promote this as much, or the print media doesn't carry the line, or excuse me, because you got so many moving parts. It's like you can't get the fair shake. The only thing that helps us now is the damn internet.
yeah,
That's the only
but
thing. But back in but those days now, when you had to rely on their promotions machines, you had to rely on all of their mechanisms. It's like, they could literally press the button and hurt you. And even in the case of Ye now, right? I saw a post of someone that was in China at a Yeezy store. The Yeezy store in China? I didn't know about that, right?
hmm,
All Yeezys, whatever, but who's to say if they were real or not, right? And this is another portion of the game that he didn't say, but he wants to say that he was robbed out of millions of dollars, or maybe even billions of dollars, in counterfeit merchandise because they allow those things to be built in the same factories.
well, gotta have your own.
Gotta
That's
have your
that's
own.
the that's the only way, man.
That's the only way you
Have
win.
have your own from, and I mean your own from the bottom to the top.
You gotta own you gotta own the whole
The
process.
the whole process from who's designing it to who manufactures it to where it's stored to where you get all of the parts and pieces to the shipping to the stores it's in. You gotta own it all, man. You gotta own it all, and you have to create a network of like-minded people, man, that's going to see the vision and do their part and get with those people. Because if you don't own any piece of it, somewhere along the line, you're gonna have to ask for help. You're gonna have to ask
Yep.
for, can you do this for me? Somewhere along the line, even if you own your own masters, and even if you own your own music, and even if you own your own content, if you're gonna be distributed through somebody else, if you're gonna if it's gonna be in a record label or a platform that doesn't belong to you, you're still gonna be like, excuse me, can I get down? You're still
Yep.
asking for permission. You're still gonna get cut a little check, and you're still gonna be partially owned. If you're not owning, please believe you're the one that's being owned.
I think that is the main takeaway, and I think that is what everyone is afraid of. They're afraid of the Yay awakening, saying, "Wait a second, we just showed everybody that they don't own anything and they have no power."
Right.
And now you're gonna have a bunch of them now trying to rise up and say, "Okay, we're gonna make a whole bunch of stuff." But
We'll see.
this is what needs to happen.
We'll see.
Like,
We'll see. Too many times, you know, we get outraged, and then they push the other button where something happens on TV, or distraction number five, and then we jump over here, and then it's all said and done.
They're pretty
You
good at
know,
that.
so it's the age old trick. You know, at the end of the day, man, you gotta own, man. Like that's the foundation. If you don't own, it's not yours,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
and, and you'll be pimped out. You're the one that's owned, and that's the end of it. So my advice is to all content creators is to make sure you own it. You own it 100%, so you can make the decisions. So you can be the one that decides, the future of where your product goes and who has it. And if you have your own platform, if someone says something on your platform that doesn't agree, with your company, and it risks damaging it, that's your decision to decide, hey, I don't want that person on my platform. That's your decision. And nobody could really be mad at it. It's like it's your decision, it's your company. It's your house, your rules.
your house, your rules.
And if you're living in somebody else's house, you gotta abide by their rules, plain and simple.
It,
You
it
gotta
is a
take what they give you.
it is a
Okay.
it's a crazy time, bro. Like it is crazy, man. Like I've been watching this thing all week, and I've been like,
You- it's all over the place. Everything,
yeah,
every time you
it's
turn
you
it
can't,
on.
yeah, it's so crazy, and it's like I'm watching it in real time, and I'm just like, man, like this is really a bad situation, like a bad situation, but it is very enlightening to kind of let you know again who's on your side. That's the first thing. Who's riding with you for real, for real.
Mhm.
Um, who has paid interest because it's very obvious whose interest is paid.
Right.
So it's very obvious that, and that's I think what those folks are doing too is that they're damaging their own brands by basically caping for the power structure.
Hmm.
We already know that you paid for the power structure, so it doesn't make any sense for you to try to get on the power structure, try to defend the power structure. We already know you paid for it,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't make any sense for you to do that, right? And then in the meantime, while you're defending the power structure, you're tearing down the minority, and you're a minority. Doesn't
Yeah.
bode well to me. You know what I'm saying? Especially over time. It's like once this community gets it together, and we figure it out, like we're gonna look back at that and say, hey, you're a paid actor. You can't really be trusted in this group, because you're gonna go to the highest bidder, which I get it, everybody gotta eat, but this is what we're seeing, and we're gonna see that shift. And I'm we're gonna see a shift. And I don't know if people are realizing it, but the shift is coming, and if that people like to root for the underdog. They see
Yeah.
themselves in the underdog, man, and I think if he can figure it out, if Ye can figure it out,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the comeback story of a
Yeah.
generation.
I think so too. Yeah. I,
Sheesh.
th- I think there is a very there. I think there is a very large community that's kind of just waiting back and just watching to see how this is going to play out. And how he, I don't want to say redeem himself, but more about how he uses this moment to kind of flip the table and create something, new, something innovative, and something that will kind of revolutionize everything that you know we're doing. Whether it's entertainment, fashion, whatever. Um, the ball is in his court right now, and you know, I wouldn't necessarily sleep on Ye because this guy is a genius in a lot of different ways.
People
Um,
hate to use that word. They don't want to use the word genius, but you have to really think about, like, as producers ourselves, and knowing what it was to do what we do, and to be successful at that. But then for him to take that, turn it into an artist, take that, turn it into a label,
Right.
Take that, turn it into a clothing line. Take that, turn it into a partnership to where you made billions of dollars.
Right.
This is not an average person, and I want people to realize, like, as much as people want to paint him as being, mentally unstable, you folks are wrong,
But
because
but but
it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be able to. You don't even like a person that makes that much, or a person that's able to get to those levels, will always seem to be unstable to everyone else.
but you know, maybe so. Like maybe that's
Yeah,
that it takes that.
that's what I'm
Like
saying.
like 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 maybe you're not supposed to be 100% there because there's so much things you have to take on and endure in that process. Like in order for your mind to think a certain way, they got to be certain things that's just not quote unquote, I guess, normal. You know,
Right, because he's not normal. Like
right,
that's the whole point. It's
right.
like
So you being a person being a genius, there's gonna be quirks and there's gonna be things about them that's gonna be deemed like something's not right. They're gonna get certain areas of their life wrong. Quote normal standards. It's gonna be wrong. They're not gonna. But at the end of the day, when it's time to do this other part, they're gonna fly. You know.
it's funny because you had people that were at Twitter that were talking about, like, Elon's Asperger's. Like, I didn't even realize the man had Asperger's. You know what I'm saying? And
I don't know. I
right,
didn't know.
like exactly, look at what he's been able to accomplish. So it's like, it's the same thing that people say about, like, oh, they say Trump is this, that, and the third. Like, okay, but billions of dollars. Like, I challenge anybody to take $100 and turn it into 1,000. I challenge you. Like, take $10 and turn it into $1,000,
And then do it again.
and then do it again, and then do it a third time. Like, so, like, you have to start to respect the people that know how to turn essentially water into wine, because that's exactly what you're doing if you're taking if you're turning yourself into self-made billionaires. Like, these are not. This is not something that people should be, should fix their mouth to talk about. In some cases, that's just my opinion. Like, I look
Hmm.
at that situation and I go, like, how hard it is to turn a dollar over, how hard it is to get a profit in the stock market. Like, come on, like, let's really think about what we're talking about when we're talking about people who are self-made billionaires and making it from, the content and the creativity of their own minds. What? Like, are you kidding? It's never been done before. So to count him out is I don't know, but a lot of people are rooting for him. I think there's even a GoFundMe page that's going on right now
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
to get him back to billionaire status. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
to make him
like
a billionaire again.
is that nuts? But listen, look at the tribe that's behind him. Like, that's I would hope that the power structure realized that that's the wrong bear to continue to poke. That's somebody that you just need to satisfy to a certain degree, because, again, you don't, if you're saying, like what you said earlier, which is, if you're a part of the power structure and you don't want that power to be disrupted, you leave you leave alone. Like, right or wrong, like that one,
Like
he
if you're if
will.
you're if you're a betting man,
Yeah, that's the one you leave alone, right? And God forbid anything happens to him. Okay, now we're going to be talking about a true disruption of power. Like, don't make him into a martyr. And this is what folks have to make sure that they say. Listen, if you're really concerned about your power structure, that's the guy you might want to leave alone, because this guy is going to sway culture in a way that you guys are not prepared for. You've never seen it like this before. You've never seen anybody, like, I've never seen anybody do it like this. Like, this is different, and I don't, it's like I'm going through social media, I'm going through everything, Instagram, I'm going through TikTok, I'm going through YouTube. It's beyond viral. It's so strange, and he will not
yeah,
stop talking.
this is they said this is on the president's desk.
Yeah,
Like like
like, he will not.
why is
Yeah,
this why is this Why is this a topic at the White House?
They said he didn't made the prime minister of Israel's desk.
Yeah. What?
It's like this doesn't like this is different, and I want people to realize that this is a different kind of cat. Like you gotta listen. This is not something that you've ever seen before. So I don't want you shouldn't count him out. But I would encourage these folks to hey. But he's asking for what he's asking for now. He's asking for folks to show the contracts. Say show the contracts. Let's look at the contracts. Let's look at the entertainment contracts, and let's start to compare the notes, and let's start to see what's wrong with it. Because once you start to bring the contracts in, you say, okay, why is this type of language in these things?
Man, they're not gonna. They're not gonna.
I don't want that.
Do that. Yeah.
They don't want it, but you're gonna have to do it to a degree. And you and I talked about this too. Is why are the contracts the same? Like why haven't the contracts evolved? Like they're still doing the same oppressive situations that they've been doing for a generation. Like these things need to have changed, but they refuse not to change. So I see the change starting to come. I hope that these guys are ready to relinquish us. They listen. They may need to relinquish a small portion in order to save the large portion.
We'll see.
We'll see. But that's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks. I need you to follow us at Arkatech Beatz on all social media platforms. If you haven't already been here, I should have told you to subscribe and follow early on. But if you haven't done so now, you can do that. And share with a friend if you like us. You know what I mean?
Own your stuff, guys.
Yeah, ownership. Ownership is the way.
Ownership.
And that's the one thing that we're learning.
Ownership. Keep it. Hand down to your families, or like-minded people in your network. If you have to get out the game, keep it within. I think that's how we move forward and create wealth in our community.
Real talk, brother. Till next time.
Peace.